Okay, this week I'm actually going to touch upon recovery. It's probably like one of, if not the most important thing when it comes to your health or whatever. So I'm going to link in an article that I came across from the uchealth.org. So it's the .org's article. So it's good. I'll link it in the description and in the comments and everything. So that way people can get into it and everything. So the article pretty much talks about like recovery, and so most people are under the assumption that you when you go to the gym you're directly building muscle from the gym. So like when instance when you're doing like a bench press, you're building your pecs and everything. When you're doing like an overhand press, you're building your shoulders, and when you're doing like bicep curls and like you're in a sense building your that specific muscle and everything. What you're actually doing, as my cat needs attention and remind us to get stuff done. Yes, I know. You're so needy. Yeah, you're such an attention junkie. Anyway, we're back on track with muscle recovery and recovery in general. What you're doing when you go to the gym, when you're doing that good old bench press, the overhand press, bicep curls, tricep extensions, squats, deadlifts, or whatever, you're actually what you're doing is you're breaking down that like the muscle tissue, and you're creating like micro tears in the muscle. And what then you have to do is like why you need like protein. And so like for instance, most of the time like the baseline does seem to be about 1 gram per pound. So someone like me, what I've found that works for me is 1 to 1.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight and everything. So of course, I'm someone who's been lifting and active regularly for pretty much like a decade, almost like a decade now. So someone who's just starting out, you could be this morbidly obese. You could be like 300 pounds and everything. So you might think 300 grams of protein, that's like next to impossible. So in a situation like that, if you're just getting started out and you need to start losing weight, and you're doing weight training and conditioning with cardio and everything, you might want to down it to getting like maybe instead of the 300 grams, like even if you're someone like me at 5'7", you might want to shoot for like the maybe 170 grams of protein. So it's obviously going to be a lot less per pound of body weight and everything, but what the protein does is that when you recover, the protein ends up building up back up those muscles. So as you're sitting there, you're tearing the muscle apart when you're in the gym and everything. And so you have like these little sarcomeres that are like little in a sense like little straws, and they're kind of small when you first start out, but as you tear you start building going to the gym, doing the bench press, squats, deadlifts, rows, whatever, you break that down, and the protein then comes in and starts building those sarcomeres up, and so starts repairing it. Because, hey, look, body's like, hey, look, you just put us under stress and everything, so we need to start to building up those little sarcomeres or whatever, the kind of like the muscle to be able to handle that load even more. So that's where you actually build the muscle. You break it down in the gym, and then when you go and recover, you get you want to get sleep. Now, of course, this article does talk about that there's really no magic number. I mean, most things you come across will say, or articles, people and experts and will say it's like 7 to 9. So that's where usually the 8 hours of sleep comes, is because it's right in the dead middle. Someone like me, I find that 8 hours is good. I can get away with the 7 hours, but I feel really good with 8 and 8 to 8.5 and everything. So that if you're looking for a magic number to shoot for, you want to shoot for 7 to 9, and that's where the recovery happens. And so that's where you really build that muscle and everything. So and you're breaking your body down in the gym, so indirectly you're building muscle in the gym, but you also have to do that recovery part too, with sleep and everything. So, and they do mention an idea called periodization, where the whole idea is doing 3 weeks of intense training where you're just going all out and everything, and then you take a week off, so that way that week you can in a sense de-stress and deload. So this is where the ideas of like deload weeks come into play and everything. So like again, like maybe you go all out for like a month, and then you kind of back it off and do like a deload week, and then you go all out again and everything. So you'll see that like why like most programs are like 3 months long. So that, and I have actually found benefit of doing some like that, like not necessarily just like sitting in the chair all day long like I am here for a whole week, but like still getting out and getting into like using the concept of like the 10,000 steps and everything. So I'm still active and everything. I'm just not as active as I was if I'm like going into the gym and busting my ass lifting and everything. So yes, I know. Yeah, and you're here to remind us to like rest and recover too, huh? And so yeah, here's another good example of like a good stress reliever that you can get and everything. So if your place doesn't allow guys like this and everything, then donate like a volunteer at your some of your time to like shelters and stuff. I know, yes, you need so much attention and everything. Yeah. Anyway, this article, that's what this article is all about. It's like pretty much like recovery. So having like those like times to recover and everything. So and like of course also it also depends on like what program you're following. So like Athlete X programs, like you'll find that like a lot of times like you're working out like 4 maybe 5 days a week. Now, yeah, for instance, you could do the AX1 program, which is like 5 days a week and like 3 lifting days of like total body and 2 conditioning days, and then like you have in a sense 2 rest days. So it fits perfectly like in the work week or whatever. So like for instance, you could do the Monday through Friday, 3 lifting sessions, 2 conditioning days, and then have the weekend to recover. So this your weekend, what would be great to be able to do that is like staying active, like using the concept of like the 10,000 steps to still stay active, and maybe you can get in some yoga and everything, doing some stretches and everything. So you still have that psychological like benefit of like, hey, look, I'm still doing something, working towards my goal, and you're not like getting ratcheting up that anxiety, like, oh, I need to go to the gym 6-7 days a week, or I'm going to. So that's like the benefit of having like a in a sense active recovery days with like the weekend, using the AX1 program as an example. Now the build program that I'm currently doing, it has like 4 days, like 4 lifting days and like 3 recovery days. So like me, usually the good old me, I add at least 1 day of like a cardio to kind of keep my conditioning up and everything. So I still got 2 like recovery days, and so like I take Saturdays off from working out and everything, but I'm still, like I said, I still use like the concept of the 10,000 steps to stay active. And I use Saturdays as kind of doing like food prep, all my the cooking for that. Plus I get like all my cleaning and like errands done. So like I'm still up and active and getting stuff done and everything. So like but I'm still not going at it at the gym, and like if I have to go balls to the wall on like I said 6-7 days a week and everything. So I still get like those like 2 days a week and everything to like be able to recover. So this is what this article is all about, is like a kind of like a, in a sense, taking some time off to kind of like okay, and then you can start assessing where you stand and everything. So and it also like helps like in a sense mitigate injuries and everything. So because if you sit there and you're just like day after day after day pounding yourself, you're going to increase the chance of injuries. Now you're probably going to get like those like minor tweaks and twerks and like whatever. Like once like my tendons in my pec or whatever was bothering me. So like from like repetitive movements like with the press and everything. So I was able to work around it. Instead of using barbells, I was able to use dumbbells. So you'll get like a kind of like a wear and tear like that, but stuff that you're going to be able to work around. And so this is where like recovery kind of helps too. Is like you find stuff that like you can pivot with too. So for instance, like if you maybe you have like a slight pull in like one of your muscles, or like a slight strain or something, where like okay, this popped up, so now I need to take a week off. You still find other things to do, like okay, well I can maybe do light cardio or whatever. Like maybe I can go to the gym, so I can still be like, hey, look, I went to the gym, jump on the treadmill and just walk and use the 10,000 steps and everything as like a well, I still got this in, and so getting into like a psychological aspect of still getting stuff done, but you gave yourself time to recover. So, like I said, I'll link the article in the description and the comments and everything, so people can check it out and everything. So, with it being like a .org website, it's going to be like a better source, because like I've said before, .orgs, .govs, and .edus, they tend to be better sources of information than your .coms, because .coms tend to be, or can be, like more opinion based. Now, of course, like some experts might be running their own business, so like Athlean-X, or Joe DeFranco, and there's other big names out there like Andrew Huberman, Matt Wennon. They might have their own .coms, so you kind of have to, like, okay, well, are these .coms people that are experts in the field and everything? So that's where .coms do kind of shine, is if like you have like experts that have their own personal websites and everything. So, but like pretty much a good bet that if you see a .org, .edu, or .gov, that like, okay, look, this information is legit and everything. So pretty much like a good rant on like a recovery, making sure like you give yourself enough time to sleep and kind of reduce that stress. And so, and also like another thing is like with recovery, to end this, is like you want to space out like your workouts too. So that's why like something like the push pull leg split is pretty popular, and I like, because it in a sense spaces out the type of workouts you do, so you can give each muscle group time to recover as well. So all about recovery today, and making sure you get like a good sleep, and like making sure you're recovering from those intense workouts that you do on a daily basis.